Still single at 45, huh? Damn, poor you. That's what Jacob said with his perfect teeth and his $1,000 watch flashing in the sun. We were standing under the marble arch of a five-star retreat in Lake Tahoe, where billionaires came to flex and swap investment tips like baseball cards. I hadn't seen the bastard in 15 years, not since he stole my fiancée, Claire, the woman I thought I'd spend my life with. He smirked, gesturing behind him like he was introducing royalty. Look at my wife. Beautiful, rich, happy. That could have been you, if you didn't screw it all up. I clenched my jaw. My knuckles whitened around the glass of bourbon in my hand. Claire, now Mrs. Jacob freaking Preston, stood on the lawn in a designer dress, giggling at nothing, twirling her hair like she was still 22. I felt the burn in my gut again, the same one I felt when I found out she left me for my best friend. But I didn't flinch. I didn't curse. I just smiled. Meet my wife too, I said, slow and calm. Jacob raised a brow, smirk still lingering on his lips like a stain. Your wife? He chuckled. Since when? I turned and waved. Ava, come over here, sweetheart. She walked across the patio like a storm wrapped in silk. Heels clicking, eyes blazing, and that curve of a smirk she wore just for show. Ava was everything Claire pretended to be. Stunning, sharp, dangerous in all the ways a man should fear, but doesn't until it's too late. When Jacob saw her, I watched his face turn pale, like he'd seen a ghost with a gun pointed at his secrets. His smirk shattered. He swallowed hard, eyes flickering between me and her like he just realized he'd walked into a trap. Ava leaned into me and kissed my cheek like she owned the world. You boys catching up? She purred, casting a long look at Jacob. I hope he told you how much he missed you, darling. Jacob was silent. Claire watched us from afar, suddenly uneasy. And in that moment, I thought I'd won. Until 3 nights later. That's when the cracks started to show. It began with a phone call. Ava was in the shower, and her phone lit up on the dresser. I glanced. I wasn't trying to snoop. I swear I wasn't. But the name glowed like a curse across the screen. JP. At first, I thought maybe no. It couldn't be Jacob. No way. But then it buzzed again. Miss you already. Can't stop thinking about that night. My stomach dropped. I felt like the floor gave way under my feet. I picked up the phone. No passcode. She never used one. She said she didn't need secrets. But she had plenty. There were messages. Dozens. Not just from Jacob, but from at least 2 other names I recognized from the retreat. Business partners. Investors. Married men. Ava played them all like a violin, sweet-talking them 1 minute, tearing them apart the next. You said you loved me. He's clueless. He actually thinks I'm loyal. Let's do it again tomorrow. I couldn't breathe. My mouth went dry. My heartbeat was thunder in my ears. She stepped out of the shower a few minutes later, wrapped in a towel, humming like nothing had happened. I stood there, phone in hand, unable to move. Hey babe, she said. Everything okay? I looked at her. Really looked at her. The fake innocence. The lips that had whispered lies to me and God knows what to them. My Ava. My wife. She raised a brow. What? I didn't speak. Not yet. Not yet. Because if I was going to confront her, I'd make damn sure the knife went deep. She stared at me like I'd lost my mind. What? She repeated, tightening the towel around her chest, that practiced little pout curling on her lips. I held up the phone and tapped the screen. Want to explain this? Her eyes narrowed just slightly, just for a second, but I caught it. That twitch. That hesitation. Then, like a switch flipped, she let out a soft laugh and rolled her eyes. Oh, come on. You're reading my texts now, she said, turning her back to me and heading for the closet. That's a little pathetic, don't you think? I didn't move. You said you had a meeting last night. That you were tired. That's why you didn't come back to the room until 2 a.m., right? She pulled a silk robe from the hanger and slipped it on slowly, deliberately, like she had all the time in the world. I was at a meeting. Business doesn't wait, darling. Jacob doesn't do business at midnight in a private suite. That stopped her. She turned around, eyes sharp now. Excuse me. You were with him. Jacob, my so-called best friend. The man who stole my fiancée 15 years ago, and now you're letting him. I stopped myself, the word caught in my throat, burning. She smirked. Actually smirked. You're being dramatic. No, I'm being honest. Something you should try. She sat on the edge of the bed, legs crossed, completely unfazed. Fine. You want honesty? Yes, I met him. Yes, he flirted. And maybe I flirted back. So what? Maybe I got bored. Maybe I wanted some attention. God knows you've been too busy checking spreadsheets to even notice me lately. Don't you dare try to pin this on me. Oh, spare me the righteous act, Ryan. Her voice rose, and her hands moved in sharp, impatient gestures. You married me because I was the kind of woman who could stand next to you in a room full of billionaires and not embarrass you. That's all I ever was to you, a trophy. Now you're mad because someone else took your prize off the shelf for a night. You're my wife. She shrugged. For now. That sentence hit like a punch to the throat. I stared at her, numb. Ava didn't flinch. She reached for her compact mirror and started touching up her lips like we were talking about dinner plans. My hands were shaking. My vision blurred at the edges. But even through the chaos in my head, I saw it. How calm she was. How cold. Like this was just another Tuesday. You've done this before, I said slowly. Jacob wasn't the first. She didn't deny it. That told me everything. I sat down across from her. The silence between us stretched, thick and poisonous. How long? She looked up, eyes sharp again. Does it matter? Yes. Since the Maldives. That was 8 months ago. We'd gone there to reconnect. She'd disappeared for 2 nights, said she had food poisoning and needed rest. I spent those nights alone, walking the beach like a fool, wondering what I did wrong. You were with someone else then. She shrugged again. You were already halfway out of the relationship. I just kept going. I couldn't believe it. The lies. The casual cruelty. The way she looked at me like I was the one who betrayed her. You know what's funny? I said quietly, trying not to scream. When Jacob mocked me for being single at 45, I was ready to shut him up by showing him you. I thought you were the win. The final card. And now? She raised a brow. Now what? Now I realize he wasn't mocking me. He was warning me. She rolled her eyes. God, you're dramatic. I stood up. You need to leave. Her laugh was sharp and humorless. This is my room too, genius. Not anymore. She rose, stepped right up to me, inches away. You really think I'll walk away just like that? You know how many people you'll have to explain this to? What it'll look like for your perfect little empire. I don't care. Liar, she hissed. You care about image more than love. I leaned in closer. You're not love. You're a well-packaged betrayal. And I'm done playing house with a woman who acts like a witch and lies like it's her job. She slapped me. I didn't react. Just stared. And then she turned and walked to the door. You'll come crawling back, she said, voice like ice. They always do. She slammed it shut. And I stood there, shaking, the echo of her heels still clicking down the hallway. But this time, I wasn't going after her. I didn't move for a long time. The silence felt loud. My breath was shallow, hands still trembling from the adrenaline that hadn't settled. I stared at the door she had slammed behind her like it was still breathing, like her presence lingered in the air just to poison it. I should have felt free, but I didn't. I felt gutted. I walked to the minibar, poured myself a whiskey with hands that didn't quite obey, and sat at the edge of the bed. Her perfume still clung to the pillows. A twisted, cruel aftertaste of what I thought we had. What I thought I had. The phone buzzed again. Same contact. JP. I didn't even hesitate this time. I opened the thread. There it was. Voice notes. Deleted messages she hadn't cleared. Photos. One image burned into me more than the rest. Her in my robe, straddling Jacob in what looked like the exact same chair she curled up in when she read books to me. I felt sick. Literally nauseous. Not just from betrayal, but from how well she hid it. From how easily she could shift from wrapping her arms around me at night to wrapping herself around someone else hours later. And Jacob, my oldest friend. We built our first startup in a garage together. Slept on the same couch in college. The man who toasted my engagement with a smile he didn't mean, and 15 years later toasted my downfall with my wife on his lap. That bastard. I opened my own text thread with Jacob. My last message to him, just a day before the retreat, still sat unread. Looking forward to seeing you again. Let's grab a drink, man. He didn't even respond. But he sure responded to Ava, didn't he? My head was spinning. The betrayal wasn't just romantic. It was surgical. Like I was the punchline of some private joke they'd been laughing at for months. Maybe longer. I pulled out my laptop. I wasn't thinking, not really. Just moving on autopilot. I logged into our shared bank account. She had transferred $40,000 to a private account labeled B Hospitality. It wasn't a hotel. I knew that much. B Hospitality was Jacob's fake consulting firm. The one he used to funnel money under the table. I helped him set it up 5 years ago. Of course, Ava would know about it, because I told her everything. They weren't just sleeping around. They were planning something. Something bigger. I clicked deeper into her recent financials. Private jets. Wire transfers. A diamond necklace sent to a Beverly Hills address I'd never seen before. This wasn't an affair. It was a setup. My mouth went dry. My heart kicked back into panic mode. She wasn't just cheating. She was robbing me blind. That robe she wore after her shower? It was probably a gift from him. That business call she took last week where she stepped out for an hour and came back flushed? That wasn't a call. It was a visit. I leaned back in the chair, staring at the ceiling like maybe the answers were written up there. Then I picked up my phone and hit record. I opened the messages from Ava and Jacob, scrolled through them one by one, reading aloud. Every dirty joke, every disgusting little plan, every time they called me naive, a puppy, pathetic. I sent the recording to my private email. Then I sent it to my lawyer. My hands were still shaking, but now there was something else boiling under the nausea. Rage. Not just the kind you feel in traffic. This was the kind that made your fingers curl and your jaw ache. The kind that didn't just want to destroy someone, it wanted to ruin them. I pulled out the second phone, the one I used for business, and I called my assistant. Julie, I said, voice flat. Ryan? It's late. Is everything okay? I need you to schedule a meeting. Private. Discreet. I'll send the list of names. No lawyers. No PR. Just loyalty. Ryan, what's this about? I looked out the window at the moonlit water. It's about taking everything back. I hung up, and then I grabbed her phone again, hers, not mine, and took one last look. One message from Jacob had come in just minutes earlier. He doesn't know yet. Keep playing sweet. I smiled for the first time that night. Because I did know. And sweet was over. By morning, I had a plan. I hadn't slept. I didn't even try. I sat there the entire night with a pen and notepad, listing every name, every transaction, every clue she'd left behind in her carelessness. She was too confident. That was her mistake. She thought I'd never look, never question, never fight back. She forgot who I was before her. Ava came back to the suite at 8 a.m., wearing dark glasses and a smug grin, carrying a fresh croissant and an iced latte like she hadn't just burned our marriage to the ground. She walked in like nothing had happened, paused when she saw me fully dressed, sitting at the desk. Wow, she said, slipping off her sunglasses. You didn't sleep? That's not healthy, babe. I didn't answer. She raised a brow. Still sulking? You really need to learn how to let things go. I stood up and walked toward her, phone in hand. Her phone. You transferred 40 grand to Jacob's shell company. Want to tell me what that's for? Room service. She paused, but only for half a second. It's a loan. Business. He's helping with. I set that company up. I know exactly what it's used for. Try again. She tilted her head, her tone sharpening. So what? You're stalking me now? Going through my accounts, my messages? That's abuse, Ryan. I laughed. You cheated, lied, and stole from me, and now I'm the abuser? She crossed her arms. You think anyone's going to take your side when they hear you've been snooping like some insecure freak? I recorded everything. That shook her. She blinked. Just once. I held up my phone and played back a snippet of her message to Jacob. Her voice filled the room. He's clueless. I could tell him I kissed a dolphin last night, and he'd believe me. She lunged forward, trying to grab the phone, but I stepped back. Nope. You don't get to control this anymore. Her whole face changed. Gone was the fake charm. What replaced it was something colder, uglier. Do you have any idea what I could do to you? She hissed. You think I don't have friends? People who owe me favors. I know exactly who your friends are, I said. That's why I already sent the recordings to 2 of them. People who owe me favors. You're done, Ava. She stared at me for a long time, lips pressed tight. Then she smiled. You won't go through with it. I already have. She laughed again, short and cruel. You think you can just cancel me and walk away clean? I don't need to cancel you. You did that yourself. I'm just giving you the microphone. That was the moment something snapped in her. She grabbed her bag, tore it open, and pulled out a tiny bottle of something clear and unlabeled. My blood went cold. What is that? Insurance, she said. In case you got stupid. You planning to poison me now? She shook the bottle. No, but I was going to put a drop in your drink last night. Just enough to make you sick. Missed the retreat. Jacob would have handled things while you were recovering. You weren't supposed to find the messages. You're insane. She smiled sweetly. Only when I need to be. I stepped forward and took the bottle from her hand. You're leaving this room. Now. And you're not coming back. Or what? I didn't answer with words. I stepped aside and opened the door. Standing there was Mark, my longtime security guy. Ex-military. Doesn't blink unless you pay him to. Escort her to the car, I said calmly. Ava looked between us, calculating. Her pride wouldn't let her cry, but I could see it, behind the anger, behind the venom. She didn't expect to lose. She walked out slowly, head high, heels echoing down the hallway. Mark followed her in silence. I shut the door and locked it. Then I sat down and stared at the floor, heart pounding. The worst part? I didn't feel relief. Not yet. Just emptiness. I thought of the years I'd spent loving a woman who was planning her escape with the same hands that touched my face at night. I thought of every "I love you" that was followed by a kiss she probably gave someone else hours before. And then I thought of Jacob. He wasn't getting away with it either. 2 days later, I was back in LA, sitting across from Jacob in a glass-walled conference room on the 38th floor of my office building. He didn't know why I'd called the meeting. He probably thought it was business. Maybe even some pathetic olive branch. He was wearing his usual overconfident smirk, sipping on an espresso, legs crossed like we were college kids again, about to brainstorm some dumb startup idea. You look like hell, he said, leaning back. Rough few days with the wife, huh? I didn't smile. You mean your wife? His smirk twitched, just for a second. That was the crack I needed. He shrugged. Ryan, I don't know what Ava's told you. She told me everything. I read it. All of it. The messages. The plans. The money you laundered through my company. His legs slowly uncrossed. Look, this isn't. She called you Daddy, Jacob. His face drained of color. I stood and tossed a thick folder on the table. Do you know what this is? A forensic audit. Every illegal transfer, every shady payment you tried to hide under consulting services. Your shell company? It's a joke. I built it. I know every crack in the wall. He opened the folder with a trembling hand. Page after page of evidence stared back at him. His fake invoices, the cash deposits, the flight logs, even a photo of him and Ava boarding a jet in Miami, laughing like villains in a movie. You think this is going to scare me? He asked, trying to sound tough, but barely keeping it together. No, Jacob. This is me warning you. I could bury you with this. Prison isn't far, but I'm giving you a choice. He laughed nervously. You're bluffing. I already sent copies to the IRS, just in case. This, I tapped the folder, is for you. A souvenir. He stared at me like I'd become someone else. And maybe I had. You want to know what the real betrayal is, Jacob? It's not that you screwed my wife. It's that you looked me in the eye, toasted to my engagement, and then took her like it was some competition. She came to me, he snapped. You think I chased her? Please. She saw weakness. She followed strength. There it was. The arrogance. The need to win. Even now. Even when he was circling the drain. I guess strength looks a lot like fraud, I said. You win, Jacob. You took her. But you also took my patience, my trust, and now, your career's next. His voice dropped to a whisper. You wouldn't do that. You'd ruin your own company just to get back at me. No. I'd ruin your life to protect mine. He stood quickly. This isn't over. It is for you. He walked out without another word. I sat there for a long time after he left, breathing in the silence. I should have felt satisfied. Maybe even victorious. But mostly, I felt tired. That night, I went home to a quiet apartment. No perfume on the pillows. No fake smiles. Just silence. And I welcomed it like an old friend. I poured a drink, stared out at the skyline, and thought about everything. The years wasted on Ava. The misplaced loyalty to Jacob. The irony of two people who found each other through betrayal. Now both exposed, unraveling. I didn't regret what I did. What I regretted was not doing it sooner. Later that week, my lawyer served Ava with divorce papers. She didn't fight. She knew the evidence I had. Knew what would happen if she tried to squeeze more out of me. She signed and vanished. Jacob? He vanished too. Last I heard, he was taking a break, somewhere in Europe, hoping things would blow over. They won't. Because people don't forget. And neither do I. Weeks passed. The retreat scandal had started whispering through the industry, like smoke before fire. Some said Jacob had run off with a mistress. Others said he was under investigation. A few who were close enough to the truth didn't say anything at all, but they stopped returning his calls. That was enough for me. Ava, for her part, disappeared with more grace. No public meltdown. No courtroom drama. She vanished into her little network of real estate and high-end socialite events, probably trying to rewrite the narrative as quickly as possible. The media didn't bite. I made sure of it. I didn't want her infamy. I wanted her to live with what she'd lost. Quietly. Permanently. I wasn't a man fueled by revenge. Not usually. But this wasn't about petty vengeance. It was about burning the rot out of my life. Completely. Precisely. Then something happened. A week after the divorce papers were finalized, I received an invitation. It was an embossed envelope, no return address, hand-delivered. Inside, a black card. Legacy Gala, honoring visionaries of the decade. Jacob's name was on the committee list. The man wasn't done yet. He was trying to salvage his reputation with the last tool he had, vanity. He wanted to stand on a stage in a tuxedo, smile for the cameras, and pretend none of this ever happened. I stared at the card for a long time. Then I called a friend. "Tell me you can get me a +1, I said. He laughed. "Of course. You planning a scene?" "Not yet," I said. "But I am planning a finale." The night of the gala, I showed up in a black suit tailored 2 days prior. Crisp lines, dark collar, silver tie. I didn't come alone. My +1 was Elena. She wasn't a model. She wasn't rich. She was better, quiet, brilliant, and immune to Bull's **T. I'd met her through a mutual business contact 2 weeks earlier. She ran a nonprofit that helped veterans find post-service careers. When I told her the truth, that I was recently divorced and not looking for anything complicated, she just smiled and said, "Good. Neither am I." When we walked into that ballroom, heads turned. Not because of me, because of her. Elena had presence. The kind that didn't shout, but radiated. Real elegance. Honest and terrifying to people like Ava. I spotted Jacob near the bar, laughing too loud with a small group of sycophants. His eyes flicked toward me, and when he saw who I was with, his expression faltered. It was subtle, but I saw it. I nodded at him. He nodded back, tight-lipped. He knew. He knew the war was over and that he lost something bigger than just money or deals or image. He lost the ability to rewrite the ending. Later that night, while speeches were given and wine flowed freely, I stepped outside onto the terrace, needing a moment alone. Elena followed, her heels quiet on the stone. She stood beside me, watching the skyline. "You good?" she asked. I nodded. "Yeah. First time in a while." She looked at me. "I read about your divorce. Didn't know the details. Still don't. Doesn't matter, though. You're not curious?" She smiled. "Everyone gets betrayed. What matters is what you do after." I didn't say anything for a moment. Just watched the lights blink across the horizon. Then I said quietly, "She made me feel like I wasn't enough. For years. Like everything I built wasn't real unless she approved of it." Elena tilted her head. "You think you're the only one who's been told that lie?" "No, I guess not." "You know what the worst part of betrayal is?" she said, her voice softer now. "It's not the act itself. It's realizing how long you ignored your own instincts just to keep the illusion alive." I looked at her. "How'd you learn that?" "My ex-husband. Different story, same poison." We stood there for a while without speaking. And for once, silence wasn't heavy. It was peace. The next morning, I woke up before sunrise. Not because I had to, not because my mind was spinning with rage or suspicion or strategy, just because I wanted to. The kind of calm that comes after a storm, when the damage has already been done and you've cleared the rubble. There's a strange stillness in that. Elena was still asleep, curled beside me under the sheets, breathing steady. I watched her for a few seconds. Not in some romantic movie kind of way. More in a holy hell, I forgot what peace looks like kind of way. And that's when I realized something. Ava never slept like that. Not once in all our years together. She'd toss, turn, always halfway awake. Always calculating even in her sleep. I used to chalk it up to stress. Turns out, it was just guilt with lipstick on. I got out of bed quietly, made coffee, and opened my email. Dozens of notifications. Headlines. Press releases. Memos from lawyers, stock analysts, and PR teams. And then I saw it. A message forwarded to me from a trusted associate. Urgent. Jacob Preston under SEC review. Attached was a brief, cold paragraph outlining the initial steps of an investigation. They weren't moving yet, but they were circling, like sharks smelling blood. I sipped my coffee and stared at the screen. So it was beginning. The machine was moving, and this time I wasn't pushing it. I had done my part, pulled the right wires. Whispers had reached the right ears. Now Jacob would have to swim or drown, and I wasn't going to throw him a life jacket. Part of me wanted to feel triumphant, but mostly I felt clean. Ava, meanwhile, had gone quiet. My lawyers told me she took the settlement without a single complaint, more than likely because she knew that a public fight would tear open everything I had on her. The recordings, the transfers, the threats. She was smart enough to walk away with what little dignity she had left. I didn't expect to hear from her again, but I did. A week later, I got a letter. Handwritten. No name on the envelope, just my initials in cursive on the back flap. I almost threw it out without reading it. I wish I had. Inside, a single page. You're not as clean as you think. You just play it better. Don't pretend you didn't love the way I made you feel. You'll chase that feeling again. And when you do, she won't be enough. No name. No signature. But I knew that handwriting. Same loops. Same sharp tail on the Y. Ava. It wasn't desperation. It was a curse. A warning meant to echo in my mind on quiet nights. The last game she knew how to play. But it didn't work. I folded the letter once, walked to the fireplace, and dropped it in. Watched it curl into black ash. She was wrong. Elena was enough. Not because she replaced Ava, or healed me, or made me forget, but because she didn't come with a mask. She wasn't a mirror reflecting back what I wanted to see. She was real. And after everything I'd been through, real was the rarest luxury of all. 2 weeks later, Jacob's name started trending. A video leaked, security footage. Him and Ava in a hotel lobby. Not just walking together. Kissing. His hands all over her like a horny teenager. Sloppy. Stupid. The timing couldn't have been worse. He had a major acquisition pending. It collapsed within 48 hours. Investors pulled out. Sponsors bailed. His board held an emergency vote. He was relieved of his duties. I didn't smile. Not even once. I didn't need to. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't trying to win. I was just living. Ava became a cautionary tale in high circles. Jacob became a punchline whispered at overpriced dinners. And me? I went back to building. Quietly. Focused. Clean. No masks. No illusions. No ghosts. Just one rule now. Trust isn't given. It's earned. And if you ever lose mine, you never get it back. It's been a year now. Strange how time bends after everything breaks. Some days feel like it happened last week. Others, like it was a different life entirely. The betrayal, the confrontation, the unraveling of two people I once called the center of my world. Now they're shadows, background noise in a life that no longer belongs to them. Elena's still with me. Not because we rushed anything. We didn't. We took it slow. She had her walls, I had mine. But we built something new. Not on lust, not on lies, not on shared enemies, but on raw honesty. Some nights we still talk about our pasts, not with anger, just understanding. She told me once, it's okay to be broken, as long as you're building. And I am. I rebuilt the company too. Restructured leadership, replaced people who had their heads too far up Jacob's plans. I cut ties with anyone who knew and said nothing. I didn't burn bridges. I demolished the roads and built new ones. I kept that black card from the gala. Not as a trophy, as a reminder. The legacy you build means nothing if it's built with the wrong people. Jacob? I don't know where he is anymore. Rumor is he fled to Southeast Asia, bouncing between countries that won't extradite, living off what's left of his dirty money. No public appearances, no new ventures. Just silence. The kind that swallows men who were too arrogant to see the fall coming. Ava? Last I heard, she married a hedge fund guy in Dubai. Another alpha with a private jet and a god complex. Maybe he's her next target. Maybe he's worse than her. I don't care. She sent one more letter. This one was different. You won. I get it now. You weren't the fool. I was. I wanted more, and I ended up with nothing. But the part that hurts the most? You didn't even hate me when it ended. You just let me vanish. And that silence was louder than any revenge you could have taken. She ended with 3 words. You never needed me. She was right. I didn't. And I don't. If there's one thing I've learned through all of this, it's this. Betrayal doesn't kill you. It just strips you down to the core and forces you to choose. Either become like them, or rebuild with truth. I chose truth. So if you're reading this, and you're in the middle of your own storm, if you just found that message, saw that look in her eyes, heard that lie that finally shattered it all, don't run. Stand still. Feel it all. Let it wreck you. Then rise. Not to prove something to them. To prove something to you. Because once you stop chasing ghosts, you finally have space to become the man you were always meant to be.